Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports. We have so much to talk about today. As usual, it's Chris Santos. I'm Paul Santos. Welcome in. First thing you're going to notice is we have a different phone number. The number is now 774-762-6234. It's one of those things I got an offer I couldn't refuse, so I had to take this number right here. So our regular callers and anybody else who wants to call in, we're going to leave that right up on the screen. We have a new number to call in. So, Chris, first of all, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. Yourself, Paul? Hope everything's well with you.
Everything is good. I like to start out with these opening rants. So I'm going to start with opening rant. And I hate to talk about Tom Brady again. It's like I'm the Patriots fan. I'm the disgruntled ex-boyfriend or something, But, some news stories have come out that, that when he retired or said he was going to retire, that was a cock and bull story. He had no plans on retiring at all. What he wanted to do was he wanted to give Tampa the Shaftarama, so much for loyalty to Tampa. I see these people walking around with their Tampa hats. Tampa's going right back to last place as soon as he goes out of there because everybody else is going to leave, right? So then he goes over, and the owner of Miami was trying to line up a meeting with him and Brian Flores. And Brian Flores is like, wait a minute, this is the tampering time. We're not supposed to be doing this. He doesn't care about that. He wants to retire, go over, maybe become part owner of Miami, slip into Miami just at the same time that Tyreek Hill is coming in. Oh, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. And then he has a house that he just built in Miami, $1 billion house. And then, by the way, lands back in the AFC East so he can give the business right back to the Patriots again, right? Oh, come on. Hey, the guy's the greatest of all time. I don't doubt that. But this idea that he's, squeaky clean guy, he does everything just right and all that. I mean, this guy is sneaky and he's looking out for himself and he's become this diva, and all that. So let's call it like it is with this guy. This guy is sneaky.
Well, he's thinking about, obviously, retirement. He's thinking about his future. He's thinking about being a pot owner. Him and his wife seem to enjoy Florida, South Florida specifically. And he's talking about some kind of ownership with Miami. Obviously, as a Patriot fan, you would think, hey, what about us? Maybe you would be involved with New England somehow, whether it's named the stadium after you, whether it's more statues over there, whether it's part owner of the New England Patriots, something that involves them, not a division rivalry like Miami. And what are you doing hanging out with them? So I think that's where the people kind of a little bit outraged up here about. But for playing there, I don't see anything that resembles that right now. I think this is more for after and what he can do in retirement and be somewhere still involved in football. Am I saying that's a slap in the face to New England people to go to Miami? Maybe. Is it a diva? Because, he doesn't need to do any of this stuff with the contracts he's had and the money he's got and the lifestyles of the rich and famous. So it's interesting to see how that all pans out in the long run. But I know there are some disgruntled fans out there that think, hey, just leave it away. And I know y'all one of them, Paul.
I got a guy on the line right now who just called in who is a big San Francisco 49ers guy, and he wanted Tom to go to San Francisco. Hello, Chops. You're on Santos on Sports. What's going on?
Hey, what's happening, Paul Santos? How you guys doing?
I'm good. You're on with myself and Chris Santos. Do you see that Tom Brady was trying to do that sneaky deal where he was going to retire from Tampa Bay and end up with Miami so he could stick it to the Patriots even more? Can you imagine that?
I can imagine.
I know you wanted him to go to San Francisco, right?
Oh, man, we wanted him, man.
Yeah, you're always criticizing Tom Brady, but then when there was a chance for him to go to San Francisco, you were all on board.
Oh, yeah, he's a great player. I give him his credit.
Do you think he's a little on the sneaky side sometimes?
Say again?
I said, do you think he's on the sneaky side sometimes?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems kind of sneaky over there. I don't know what's going on.
All right, we're in agreement on that one. Hey, I'll catch up with you later. Thanks a lot for the call.
Okay, have a great show, guys.
All right.
Great show. I love it, man. Keep doing your thing, Paul.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, I remember when Chops, who co-hosts that other show with me, the comedy variety show, when Brady was with the Patriots. You always say, "Oh, he's no Joe Montana" and all that, and then he goes down to Tampa, wins another Super Bowl, and then it's like, "Hey, I wonder if he's going to go to San Francisco, the team that he grew up with." Chops is all on board. Sure, come on over, greatest of all time, right?
Oh yeah,
That's the way
I'm
all of our
sure.
fans.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love that. I'm hearing this a little bit of disgruntled with Debo Samuel right now over in San Fran, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that as well. But again, if this guy went home and said, "Hey, I'm going to join the 49ers. Jimmy G's out, I'm in," I'm sure the San Fran people. Now remember, for 1 or 2 years, because you're not going to get much more than that out of Tom Brady. So it's kind of a one and done thing, but it is what it is, and they would have loved to have him.
All right. The number is 774-762-6234. That's a new number that we have here on Santos on Sports. Give us a call. I just had to get that off my chest, that whole Tom Brady thing. I know this has been probably discussed over and over, but this little piece of information that came out was just like, just felt that little thorn in the side. I feel so much better now. I feel so much better getting that off my chest. But while we're talking about football, we wanted to talk a little bit about Devontae Parker, that addition wide receiver for the Patriots now, and how that might help Mac Jones. What do you think about that addition? Could this guy be the number one receiver and number one target for Mac Jones?
Well, Mac Jones is looking, obviously, for some more help. So Devontae Parker, who started in 2015, has an opportunity to really help this team if, and I say the word if, he can stay healthy. That's the key behind Devontae Parker. Maybe a change of scenery will help him stay healthy. But if you look at his statistics, in 2015, he only started 4 games, 26 receptions. In 16, he had started 8 games with 56 receptions. 2017, he had started 12 games with 57 receptions. His biggest year was 2019. He had 14 games started, caught 72 passes for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's the Devontae Parker they want here in New England. Now, just put it out there to yourself, Paul. Is he better than Aguilar? Is he better than Kendrick Bourne? Will he help out those tight ends? Can he stretch the field? Things like that. My thing is, yes, he can if he can stay healthy and stay on the field. That's the whole thing behind Devontae Parker.
Well, that'd be nice to see, having another option there for Mac Jones, because, the criticism is that, the wide receiver that they haven't really done the job. And if you just get something a little bit out of Smith, to kind of help out Hunter Henry, who really was one of the better free agents that they signed, right? So now you have the short game, a little bit more of the long game. You got James White coming back. You still have the running game. So maybe the Patriots are going to be a little bit better than what people give them credit for.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And using him to really take the deep threat, I think that's something that's very important that every team should pretty much have, where you can stretch the field, and now it brings safeties and corners and it plays off, where now you can use Smith and Henry even more to your advantage because they're worrying about the deep threat, whether if Aguilar and Bourne and even the other receivers, Myers and whoever else they got in that lineup, we're not maybe able to do that. So if Parker can stay on the field and stretch it down there, I think it should help them underneath with those 2 tight ends, go one-on-one coverage and help them in the long run. Last year, 8 games, 40 receptions for 515 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not what you want to see. Hopefully a change of scenery, new quarterback, stretch the field, helps out the New England Patriots. Let us know what you think on that. 774-762-6234 about Devontae Parker now being with the New England Patriots.
All right, there's a new phone number right there, so please call that number right there. We'd love to have you chime in. Got a couple of comments over here. Hey, some of these Brady people are out there today. Chris Carol Downey Robletsky says that, the Patriots will always love Tom Brady. Patriot fans will always love Tom Brady. I live in Massachusetts. I love Tom Brady. Good luck to you, Tom Brady, no matter what you want to do. So I understand that. I just, I'm on that thing where hey, I'm going to retire so I can spend more time with the family, right? I'm going to go to the bus stop, put the kids in the bus stop. This guy doesn't care about putting the kids on the bus stop. Chris Santos and Paul Santos, we put our kids on the bus stop, right? And made those sacrifices, and we loved every moment of making those sacrifices. I wouldn't trade any second of not being there for my kid. But a guy like this, he just wants to go get another trophy. These guys that are at that level, you have to understand. I got nothing against the man, but whether it's LeBron James, whether it's Tom Brady, their egos are as big as the room I'm standing in. It's just the truth. That's what makes them good, because they'll do anything to win.
Oh, yeah. And he's probably got somebody who he hires to put those kids to the bus stop more than have him do it. So he'll probably just wait until he's done playing and finally say, hey, I've had enough. And then I can make games, or I can make whatever I need for my kids and go for there. But right now, it's, I still got some play in me left. I'm going to make the best of it that I can, but I'm going to do it in my terms. And I think that's the key, Paul. It's my terms, and this is how I want it run. This is what I'm looking for in the future down the line. This is how I want to do it. It's me time now. Not worrying about the teams I'm with. It's now Tom Brady time, and this is how I want to end my career.
All right, shout out to Bob Conklin, a very well-known referee at high school football in our area. Great to have you looking in today. Give us a call if you want to chime in. Mike Concesio watching today, not only a fan of our show, but he loves Chop Sternit, so he was
con man. I love the con man.
Yeah, the con man, baby, the con man. And Laurie Tabor watching this morning, so let us know what you think. And hey, I'm glad to hear the little exchange there on TB12. No matter how long it is, or what season it is, right? Football and people like a Tom Brady, they're always like a little bit in the back of your mind, even though we're in the middle of hockey, football, and basketball and everything else. I'm going to talk all about that in a second, but there's something that is just, especially us Patriot fans, Chris, I'm sorry, like, a guy like you, you're a Cowboys fan, so it doesn't really, for us Patriot fans, it just this little tweak there, you know what I mean? It's something about this subject that everybody has an opinion on,
Well, I think one of the biggest things, Paul, is what New England and Tom had so much in common to really work together to lead them to them championships, maybe take pay cuts, maybe do different things to get players on your team, work so well together. To see it go off that way and not be as consistent and go out your career a Patriot or end it the way, a happy ending, I think it kind of sticks with some people. And now you're seeing some of the realistic things of, how retirement really ends up and what you want to do. And obviously do it my way going out. A lot of that, kind of hurts, specifically when you've given 20 years to that guy. And a lot of Patriot fans take it to heart. And I'm sure the organization sees it the same way too.
Well, Mikey Kahn says that he loves the way Chris Santos breaks everything down, and so do I. That's why he's here. He's like the breakdown.
X's and O's, Mikey.
He's the X's and O's guy, and that's why he's here. And I agree 100% with the way Chris breaks things down. Okay, so where do we want to head now? We want to talk a little bit of golf. I see that hat you have on there, and I know you've been playing a little bit. You got a couple of pretty good rounds in so far, right?
I have, and even in the background, I got the Masters on right now, so Tiger Woods is out there, and I'm sure that's great for the golf community. It's great for the ratings. It's tremendous to have him make the cut after a 14th to 17th month layoff, where he got into a bad accident, where the doctors even contemplated maybe amputating his leg. But to see the man back out there, a freak of nature, you could call it that. You could call it mental toughness, a guy who's probably the greatest grinder of all time, to really focus his game to get him just to make the cut is tremendous. It's great for the game. He's out there playing on a Saturday, sitting back saying, hey, I'm not here just to, get for ratings. Yeah, I'm trying to win. Today's moving day, they call it on Saturday. He wants to be able to go out and continue to make a move, maybe get in the top 10, top 5, see how the day goes, and then make something happen on Sunday. But just to see him playing, Paul, is outstanding. He saves it for his greatest achievement, which is the Masters, where he's won, I believe, like 5 times. It's his course. It's his home. He loves it there. And he feels like hey, I can still compete even with a bad leg. You watch him limping. Sometimes you watch him having a tough time bending down. Major back surgeries, major knee surgeries. But it's Tiger Woods, the greatest mental toughness in grinder in the sport. And it's just wonderful for the golf community to have.
It's really interesting because a guy like that, right? Tiger Woods, household name. Everybody
Yep.
knows who he is, right?
Yep.
So for people that follow golf, they'll know who the top 5, 10 players are that are in the field and all that. And then you have a whole bunch of people who know Tiger Woods and don't know anybody else that's in the field, even the number 1, number 2, number 3 player in the world. What
Right.
is it about this whole Tiger Woods thing? There is something about his celebrity. It's almost like, the Kardashians or something that you can't explain, that everybody knows about him. Everybody knows how great he is. Everybody knows the obstacles he's had to face, the mistakes that he's made in his life and everything else. And it's kind of made it like this little extra thing that even the casual person, even the person who's not even a sports fan, kind of is intrigued by it.
Yeah, and it's a great story, Paul. And I think that's the key right there. From the time he came out, and Earl Woods, his father, said, Tiger is going to be something special. Watch out for this young man. And it came true. And once it came true at an early age and people jumped on, the guy was in the paper every day, every weekend, going after Jack Nicklaus's records and continuing on. Now, we have our ups and downs in life, just like everybody else has. And people watch through it and stumble. And then they sit back and say, can he rebound? And the guy rebounds. And when he was on top of his game, he's up there in the upper echelon as the greatest player, him and Jack. Obviously, had a few guys in there in the top 5. And it's just a great story because you can follow something like that. Even if you're not the biggest golf fan, you can sit back and say, yes, I know who Tiger Woods is.
Well, we got a comment here from Scott Borowitz, and he's asking a question. What? No Titleist hat? What's going on here?
Well, hey, listen, there's ups and downs to that. Sometimes, you get a little Snell hat because you might be using their ball to try to promote the ball, try to get a little business to a good friend named Dean Snell. You can also go back and wear Titleist another day. If the Snell is not working for you, you can always change. So, yes, I do use Titleist clubs, but right now I'm using the Snell ball. So I do have a little bit of extra inside info that I am working on, and I'm using the ball, the MT black ball, and that's why I am wearing the lid.
Well, this might be a situation where somebody might say, wow, Chris Santos uses that ball. Maybe I'll use that ball too,
Sure. I listen, I recommend it. It gives me the same kind of feel that if I use with a Pro V1 in the Titleist, which is one of the upper echelon balls that they use. So I'm always trying to score better and make my game better. So I am giving Snell a try, and I've used it back and forth in the last couple of years to try to get an advantage like everybody else. Same thing with putters, same thing with irons, same thing with drivers. They all do it, and I'm trying to fit right in there too, and hopefully it helps my game and makes my game better.
Well, Chris and I were talking right before the show. We wanted to put a question out there for you, okay?
Yep.
The Boston Bruins are heading down the home stretch. So are the Celtics. The Celtics playoffs actually come sooner than the Bruins. But one thing that we've noticed over the past, 3 or 4 weeks, right? After it felt like Swayman was the number 1 goalie, Swayman has been slumping a little bit. And Olmark, who put up pretty good numbers, but never really felt like he was stealing any games for you, his numbers have been great. His save percentage is way up there. And last night in that Tampa Bay game, Olmark played tremendous. So the question is, let's say you're coaching the Boston Bruins, and let's say the playoffs are going to start tomorrow. Who would you put in there? Kind of an intriguing decision at this point. Now the playoffs are a month off. Do you kind of lean in one direction? Do you wait? What do you do? Because right now, I hate to say it because I was always a Swayman guy. I think if the playoffs started tomorrow, I think I'd have to go with Olmark.
It's a possibility, and that's something that Cassidy and his coaching staff will have to figure out right here down the stretch. The only thing I've seen difference, Paul, is when Swayman has kind of faltered, it's been more of that 3rd or 4th game that he has been involved in when he's done it in a row. Number 1, number 2, and maybe number 3 have looked pretty good. Now they put him for maybe the 3rd game or 4th game, and he's in there, and then he has like a bad game. So it's that stretch of getting a few games in a row in. where now if he had a little rest and then get back into it, he starts to play better. And same thing with Omar. Now they give Omar like 3 days or 3 games of rest, and then he comes out there and he's really fresh. And so when you're playing 15, 20 games in 30 days, you're playing back to back sometimes, things like that. And by the 3rd or 4th game as a goalie, you're seeing 30 to 40 shots a game, a lot of moving, a lot of toughness. You got to have that mental game to get you through a series. So that's where it's important for the Boston Bruins. Can they continue to be goaltending through a series? So it's going to be interesting what Cassidy does and how he does it. Do I play 2 games, let's say, with Swayman, then go back to Olmark? Do I start Olmark for 2, then get Swayman in? Or do I go 1-1-1-1? I don't know. I'm not sure what they're thinking, but it's going to be an interesting last few weeks right before the playoffs. And I'm hoping, Paul, that in a couple of weeks, we reach out and we get a hold of Billy Jaffe, and he gives us the answer to that question right here on this show.
Yeah, I understand that we have some feelers out for Bill Jaffe, who does the games, with the Boston Bruins in between periods, does a great job breaking it down. So hopefully we'll have him right here on Santos on Sports. Now, what do you think? Do you think Swayman or do you think Ullmark? Give us a call at 774-762-6234. That's our new number. Apparently it's working because we had one call come in so far.
Sure.
And also you can type in your comments in the comment line. Let us know what you think, Ullmark or Swayman. The other thing too,
not stuck yet, Paul. I'm still on the border. I think there's enough games left to really sit back and say, who wants to take the reins right now? Now you watch at the end of the game, Paul. Here comes the big hug and the big, togetherness between Swayman and Ullmark that they do at every game that they win. So that's great to see that they have this great bond together. And I don't think it's going to worry either one of them, whichever way Cassidy goes, because they have this bond together and it seems to be working.
Well, it's interesting because we have seen in the past, not that often, most of the time there's a number one goalie. The number one goalie gets hot. There's a reason why teams go on a roll. They start proceeding through the playoffs. But in the last couple of years, we have seen a couple of times where a team started with goalie A. Goalie A goes through the first series all right. Then in the second series starts to falter a little bit or maybe tweaks an ankle or something. And then the second goalie comes in and the second goalie starts getting hot. So then they don't even go back to the first goalie. So you do have 2 capable goalies that are capable of doing very well. I do think, though, that a hot Swayman, I still think is better than, like a hot Ullmark. I think there's something about Swayman that I like in that situation, but Ullmark has definitely shown me a lot over the past couple of weeks for sure.
And he looked very good last night. He was very aggressive. He came out a lot and he made some big saves in some good slot positions that Tampa had. And he took away a lot with the glove and his movement. I was pretty impressed with Ullmark last night and stealing that game down in Tampa.
Well, when he played for Buffalo, he was a tremendous goalie, which is one of the reasons why the Bruins got him. Now, a lot of us felt, they ran out there and spent all this money on this goalie, and, maybe they could have played it a different way. Well, it turned out that, Tuukka couldn't come back. He tried to come back, but couldn't. So now when you look back at it, maybe that deal will be a blessing in disguise if, the rookie Swayman isn't quite ready for the playoff run.
Yeah, and, for one game, I get it. I think the Bruins can beat anybody in one game. That's not what's bothering me. What bothers me is series. That's where it's going to be different. Can the Bruins sustain that kind of play for a series? The one game, I think they can beat anybody in one game. And we've seen it. We've watched them this year where they've looked great in games and they've looked poor in games. So how will that look during a series? That's what's going to really stand tall coming down the stretch, especially with the defense, who I still think is creating a lot of turnovers in their defensive zone that's leading to a lot of scoring chances for the opposing team. They need to really freshen that up. And if they don't, it's going to be a short series for them. So Lindholm's been banged up. Pasternak's been banged up. They both were not in the game last night, and yet the Bruins go out and win. So now you have your leading goal scorer out. You probably have your second best defenseman out, and the Bruins come through with a big win in Tampa. So, again, they show that they can win against good teams. Can they do it in a series? That's going to be the whole difference.
Shout out to Elaine Anderson. Thank you for watching today on Santos on Sports. Chris and I always have a blast talking sports, and we invite you to join our discussion at our new number of 774-762-6234. You mentioned the injuries. Boy, I'll tell you, I was so excited coming down the stretch. We'll talk about the Celtics in a few moments, but, coming down the home stretch, I'm like, wow, the Bruins and the Celtics, they could both go on a nice run for a change, right? Wouldn't that be great? One night you get the Celtics, next night you get the Bruins. They go on second round, third round. I mean, even if they don't win the whole thing, just to have that kind of sports entertainment, right in through May and right into June, how great that would be. And then all of a sudden, boom, Rob Williams goes down. Pasternak goes off, holding his side. People are wondering, gee, I hope it's not the ribs like it was with Bergeron back in that series against Chicago when the Bruins made it to the finals. You talked about the defenseman. He's hurt. The Bruins still put up a good game, but if they don't get all those players back, we're talking about getting through round after round after round of playoffs against so many good teams that are in the East. I just don't see it unless they have a full slate of players.
Both teams, Paul, you still got plenty of games left. You give those guys as much rest as possible until they are ready and fully recovered, then get them in. So I'm thinking that Pasternak and Lindholm is not as bad because they kept them on the trip. They didn't send them home right away. So I believe that they're going to be okay, but you give them as much rest as you can, then you get them back in. Now, Williams is different. Williams has a timetable. We know he's probably going to miss the first round of the playoffs. So you have to sit back and say, okay, Adoka is going to go, this is what my lineup looks like. This is who comes off the bench. Let's win this first series. Now I get Williams back. Supposedly should be ready for the second series if we win the first one, and then I'll adjust once he comes back. But at least you have a timetable on him, and I don't think Pasternak and Lindholm are that bad, but still give them as much time as you need to get them rest. You both teams are in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. It's not like you're fighting to get in there. You're in there. Let's get them healthy and then see what happens going in.
Right. The thing is, too, they're in a little bit of a tough spot, too, because with the Bruins, right, you're so much better off if you can finish second or third because you might end up with the Maple Leafs or something like that. Now, look, the Maple Leafs, they have trouble with the Bruins, but sooner or later they're going to beat them. Eventually, you have a jinx or whatever. Eventually you can beat them. But I'd still rather play Toronto than play Carolina or Florida in the first round. If the Bruins are a wild card, they're basically going to go up against the powerhouse right away in the first round. Now, you got to beat everybody eventually. But obviously, if you move up a little bit, you get home ice, maybe you get a first round under your belt before you have to play one of those teams. Maybe those teams have to knock each other off or something. Who knows? But I don't like the idea of the Bruins being a wild card. That makes me a little nervous. On the other hand, you don't want to run Pasternak into the ground trying to move up one notch. So that's what makes it such a tough decision. I agree with you. I would rather give these people the rest that they need so that when you get to the playoffs, you're at full boat. So I would err on the side of resting everybody 100%. But I still would like to see the Bruins move up a little bit.
Yeah, if you can beat Tampa without them two, then why not rest them? I could see if you're going on a losing streak and you're not even close, right, and now you're really going down, and say, hey, buddy, we need you in there. Do the best you can. I know it's getting close, but we're going to put you in a little bit earlier because we want to make the playoffs. Then that might be a little different. But they're winning big games when they need it. So right now, hey, rest them as much as you can. Hold off as long as you can. And then where you fall and let the chips fall where they go and just see what happens when you get in the playoffs.
Well, there's an old saying, be careful what you wish for, right? Mm. So you see the Celtics the other night, they obviously Rob Williams is injured. They didn't play Tatum. They still gave the Bucks a pretty good game, almost beat them, but kind of trailed off at the end. Some observers are saying, well, they really didn't want to win that game that bad because they're trying to duck the Nets, and all these teams are trying to duck the Nets in the first round. And I understand that, you know what I mean? It's unfortunate that you have such a great regular season, and the thanks you have for that is you're going to play the Nets in the first round. But, kind of like tanking it on purpose. I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, does it feel like they're doing that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look where you're at, Paul. You're at second, third, and fourth, maybe even possible to get first. So, you're giving you a chance to rest a couple of guys who might be dinged up, maybe a little fatigued, trying to save it down the stretch. Not having Williams obviously hurts, but I don't think they want to fall too far. And I don't think they want to risk that point to say, well, okay, we're in second, but if we fall to third, then we don't play Brooklyn, because you don't know what other teams are doing too. I think you just worry about your team and what's best for your team. And I think that's what they're doing.
All right, give us a shout, 774-762-6234. And you can join the discussion with Chris and myself. And also, we look forward to your comments. Thank you for those so far. All right, so any final thoughts on the Bruins or the Celtics before we get to baseball?
Well, again, I think the Bruins are in a good spot as long as those two guys come back. And then you just have that reputation to sit back and say, we're the Boston Bruins. We're going to grind. We're going to forecheck. DeBrusk looks like he's back. Looks like he's got things rolling. Came up big again last night. So the first line looks like they're intact. Second line looks like they're intact. As long as Lindholm helps out and the defense does not commit a lot of turnovers in their own end, I think they will be fine. Now, Cassidy has to make this decision down the stretch about the goaltending and let that just play out the way they want it to go, and we'll see what happens. As the Celtics, hey, you're going to be in the top four somewhere. You're going to have to play those teams eventually. Whether you do it in the first round, where you're maybe a little bit more fresh, Paul, than playing a tough 7-game series in round one. Now you get to round two, and you got to play Brooklyn then, or some of these other teams who you think are tough. So let's just see how that pans out and works out for them. Get them healthy, hopefully win that first one, and get Williams for the second one and see how it goes. But, if we get Billy Jaffe on talking Bruins in a couple of weeks, that would be nice just before the playoffs. Get his insight and what he thinks. We'll know a little bit more exactly where the Bruins are and who they might match up with. Same thing with the Celtics.
One thing we can ask Billy Jaffe is the point that you made about DeBrusk, right? Think about how close the Bruins were and the fans were basically encouraging the Bruins to trade him, get him out of here. He's disgruntled. He's on the third line. You can't get anything out of him, and they put him on that line with Bergeron and Marchand. Now, most people would love to play there. I'm sure he's thinking, wow, I died, went to heaven playing with Marchand and Bergeron. And now, the puck is kind of bouncing for him, but the puck is finding him. He's making plays. In that overtime yesterday, he made a great back check right in front of the net, basically lifting the stick of a shot that could have won the game for Tampa. And then all the way down the other end, the puck went behind the net. He then put his body in a position for the puck to loosen up, even though he didn't get the puck. And that resulted in the pass out front for the goal by Coyle. So he did a lot of great things in that shift. And wow, this guy is playing tremendous. The Bruins would have felt like fools if they traded him and he played like that on another team. Now, I don't know if another team would be able to put him on a line like that, but wow, what a nice thing this has turned out to be, where you can have Hall and Pasternak on another line and then Coyle on another line. That's really been a great thing to have DeBrusk performing with those guys.
Yeah, it sure has. And if I'm Butch Cassidy, I tell him, you grind in that offensive zone. You create the hits. You try to get the turnover. And then when you do, get the puck to the playmakers. Get it to Bergeron. Get it to Marchand. And then get into open space, because those guys are so good. They will find you. You will get the puck back and you will create goals. And exactly what happened yesterday, he went in the corner, made a great check. The puck ended up being a Marchand. Marchand made a great pass through the defenseman's leg, open space. Here comes the brush from that corner into the net. And then he tucked it 5-hole right between Vasilevsky's legs and scored the goal. Perfect example. Grind, get it to the playmakers, and then get in open space where they can find you. And he did it perfectly yesterday.
And as far as the Celtics are concerned, I got to tell you, I still worry about that Rob Williams being out. Now, hey, it happened. He's out. What are you going to do? Other people got to step up. Tice was playing okay. Horford, of course, was out in that game too, this last one against the Bucks. But I don't know. I think, with Rob Williams in there, the way he was playing, you really got a championship contender there. And, they say he's coming back in the second round, but who really knows, right? When when you think about how high these athletes have to go in the air, and I understand they're strong, really, muscular athletes and everything else, but we're talking about a knee. You got to go up in the air. You're a couple of feet off the ground, and you're landing, boom, hard on the wood. I don't know. It could be longer than that. And I just worry that how unfortunate it would be that if that's the difference between winning a playoff series and not.
And I'm not worrying about it offensively, Paul, because I think Tice and Horford can make that up. What they can't do is be the big man in the middle that really does a tremendous job defensively on the other player, where he really alters the shots. And he's like number one in really defensively on holding his opponent to field goal percentage, which is really low because he does such a great job defensively. The 12 points and the 10 rebounds, Tyson Horford can make up for that. But can they alter shots? Can they play that great defense that this guy was playing to be considered Defensive Player of the Year? Because he's done such a great job blocking shots and altering shots from the big man down below. That's where it's going to hurt them the most.
Yeah, defensively, absolutely right. And Marcus Smart, he's one of the best defensive players in the league,
Yep.
which is a credit to him. But that's a different area of the floor.
Sure.
And even White is a great defensive player. So when you had White and Marcus Smart, and then on top of that, Williams, I mean, that might be the best defensive team in the league.
Well, and they've shown it since January 1st, I'll tell you that. Their defense has been outstanding, and those three guys have been a huge part. And Williams in the middle to stop guys like Embiid or Giannis and some of those big guys down below really, really helps open up areas for White and Smart to be even more aggressive, because they know if they get by them, guess who's there? Williams, to alter, block, or change the direction of the shots, and makes it difficult for that guy coming through.
All right, give us a shout at 774-762-6234. Make your comments in the comment line so we can react to them. We always enjoy that. Got a few comments here, so keep them coming. We want to talk a little bit about the Red Sox. Yes, the Red Sox played yesterday, and it's always fun when they have an opening day in the afternoon, because I was at work, but I kind of slipped out a little bit, put the game on, picked it up in the middle of the game when it was a one-score game,
Yep.
one-run game, and pretty much watched it from there, going right into the extra inning. So, the Red Sox are going to hit. The defense was pretty good. Even the pitching wasn't bad. I mean, Whitlock did a pretty good job. He did give up that home run and so forth, but that's going to happen. But then once you got deep into the bullpen, that's when you started to think, I'm not sure how deep that bullpen's going to go. So the question mark for the Red Sox, right? Is it the bullpen? That seems to be one point of view, that maybe the bullpen, which is so much more important now than it ever was, with starters only going 5 innings and so forth. That Bridge guy and the guy in the 6th inning and the 7th inning and then the 8th inning. What about that Sox bullpen? Do you think they got a weakness there?
Well, first off, Thursday opening day rained out. Friday comes opening day, Red Sox Yankees rivalry. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't love that? Everybody loves that. I mean, probably the most watched game going on that day is those two teams. Now, the storylines. Trevor Story, 0 for 5 in his first game debut with the Red Sox. People are already going to stop. Hey, can this guy hit? Can this guy, we saw what he did at Coors Field, but didn't bat too well on the road. Already opening day, goes 0 for 5 as a Red Sox, number one. Number two, as you said, Paul, can the bullpen sustain and help out starters like Evaldi, like Pavetta, and the rest of this Tanner Houck and the guys that they got? Can they do a good job? Now, yeah, they went into extra innings. That's pretty good from a bullpen. Did they win the game? No. But still, they had their opportunities maybe prior to that to have a chance to win the game. They didn't do it today, and it's only game 1. So it's kind of early, but I like at least that the pitching got them to the extra innings. So that means they got something going on between inning 6, 7, 8, 9, and obviously in the 10th. So that's okay right now. It's early yet. Let's see how it looks, in a 2 to 3 week span or a month, and say, okay, right now, this bullpen is not holding up like they should, or, yeah, they've done a good job.
A lot of things on the bright side, of course. Nate Evaldi pitched a good game, gave,
Yep.
Those strong innings at the beginning of the game. Devers with a home run, Bogarts with some good plays in the field, and also, driving in a run late in the game when it was important. Whitlock did a pretty good job, except for that one, home run, which can happen, but his stuff looked pretty nasty. So there's a lot of things about that game. I mean, the Red Sox definitely look like, they're going to be up there. They got a tough division, but there's a lot of positives to take out of that game as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. And anytime you're playing the Yankees and it's that close, and you're losing in extra innings, I mean, I'm sure Alex Cora is going to sit back and reevaluate what happened specifically yesterday, or he can sit back and say, "Oh, who did I like in that bullpen coming out? I maybe can use him when I think it's the right time." He did a good job for us game one. Let's see how he does from there. So you pick up a lot of things, and you learn a little bit. And again, it's April. It's cold. It's still raw, and trying to get used to some live game situations. It's just game one. Everybody relax, settle down. Great rivalry. Let's see how it looks in the next couple of games. And no reason to push the panic button yet, Paul.
All right, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. You are on Santos on Sports.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you?
Very good, sir. So let's talk about Red Sox a little bit.
All right.
Again, I agree with Chris. It's only game one. But I'm a little disappointed with this Bogarts deal. I was hoping that, they would get something done before the season started and that he would be sewed up as well as Devers. But I'm not sure if they're going to get it done. It seems like they're taking a different approach where, I've said on this show before that I can't even afford really to go to a game now. So I'm really not looking to go to the game in the future based on what it may cost me to get into Boston and Park and see the Red Sox. But, I'm kind of disappointed that they're not spending some money where they're one of the major market team in baseball and one of the richest baseball teams in all the land. And it seems like they're taking, a different approach with this general manager. I think that's why they hired him. His style is to get, get some more value out of cheaper players.
Do you think the addition of Trevor Story has changed the thoughts of the general manager and the staff and think about Bogarts and Devers and what to do with them now that they got a guy and they spent some good money on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the room.
Right.
But it surely seems like a safety valve if Bogarts isn't there or can't go, sure does seem that way. I really like I really like Devers. Probably one of my favorite players right now, and I think he's a true Red Sox player, and where you could build teams around. And even though he may struggle a little bit on defense, but he's not a bad shortstop. I just think he's a real team guy, a good leader, leads by example. Not a big rah-rah guy, but I like the kid.
Well, you mentioned Bogarts, and I always like Bogarts. And, this whole thing about Stories coming in and you're going to play second base. And he's like, well, I'm going to play it for now. What do you mean by that? So I'm like, well, maybe Bogarts is letting that go, whatever. Well, then they talked about extending his deal, right? And they couldn't get it done. And then when they asked Bogarts, did they make you an offer? He's like, yeah, they made an offer. Well, okay, they couldn't get it done. And then I think they said something to him in the press conference. They said something like, I want to remember the quote correctly. It was pretty much, hey, do you think there's a chance that it might get done during the year? And without even pausing, he went, no. So he doesn't sound like he's too happy right now. And that would be too bad if they lose Bogarts next year.
Yeah, and I think he made that statement early on that he wanted to have an extension or a new deal before the season started, that he preferred not to negotiate during the season. So, but yeah, I think he's just sticking to his word. But who knows? Yeah, no, it's kind of disappointing. I'm a big Red Sox fan, and I would like to see those guys. I think they can keep them all. You look at what the Dodgers is doing. There's no salary cap in baseball. You can't afford to go to a game now, so John Henry should spend some of his money, and the Red Sox should spend some of their money. It's unfortunate. I just if we're not. if we spend some money and get these good players, and we don't make it to the World Series or the playoffs, and so be it. But if we get all this money or these resources to put, some good teams together, and we don't make the playoffs, then that's another story. But well, we'll see. It's first game of the season, 161 more to go, I guess. I do believe, I agree with Chris, that their pitching could be suspect, especially their bullpen. Diekman was pretty much the worst guy yesterday, but no closer, playing it by ear, that type of stuff is something that probably they should be concerned with. And so I'll let you chew on that for a while, and it's always a pleasure listening in on Saturday.
Hey, thank you very much for the call, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for that call. Always a good one. And you can chime in too at 774-762-6234. I'm glad the new number is working, because I was getting a little concerned about the technology. You still have to prove it. You still have to prove that it works.
Sure.
But getting back to some of the, the point that the caller was making, yeah, the Red Sox, they got money to burn, for God's sakes. They could easily keep all three of them. Now, again, it'll cost some money. These guys are making bigger and bigger money every year and so forth. But what an infield that would be. That'd be like one of the best infields in the league. Now, first base is still suspect, but I don't know. I just would feel bad to see Bogaerts go, because he was like a company guy, class act and everything else. And, I don't think he's too happy right now.
Too early to tell, but I understand that you want things done before the season starts, because you want to focus, obviously, on the season coming up. And, you got enough to worry about playing defensively and hitting. Never mind, in the back of my mind, I got this contract problem. And so I understand where he's coming from and would like to settle that as fast as possible. But I think the Sox are all set offensively, at least for this year. I think, obviously, the pitching staff is where they need some concerns. Now, Sale on a 60 IL right now, 60-day, that really hurts. And are you excited about the starting five besides Eovaldi? I'm not really too wound up to say that 2, 3, 4, and 5 are great pitches. And then, as the caller said, not really sure on a closer yet, and suspect bullpen. So it's not about their offense. I think they're going to hit all year. It's what they do with this starting staff and the bullpen that helps them out. So I would be more concerned right now with that, to try to help them guys out more than I am with their offense, even though, yes, I agree, you want to solidify a deal with Bogaerts as quick as possible.
Well, we got a comment here from Ryan Fast and Furious. He says Corey even pointed out that his biggest concern was the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Fast and Furious, Ryan Fast and Farious is saying that we need to fix that right away. Well, remember a few years ago, they had that bullpen by committee. That didn't last too long. Anytime you have a bullpen by committee, and teams have tried it, for some reason, it just doesn't work.
You can do it and get away with it with some teams. Tampa actually tries it a lot. They'll pitch a guy for 2 innings, and then the next guy for 2, and another guy for 3, and another guy for 2. So some teams like it. It's not the traditional way of getting a guy for 5 or 6 and then getting some other people in. So, Bonds was supposed to be the man. And you get a couple of guys getting up to Bonds. It hasn't panned out the way they would like it. So let's see how that works coming this year, to see if he can rebound from what's been going on with him. But yeah, I agree. 7th and 8th inning to try to keep and hold the lead is a big thing right now in baseball. When you get guys that go 5 and 6, can I hold what they've done and then get to my closer? That's going to be kind of something that Red Sox fans are going to say, oh boy, who can help us today to get to our closer? So that will be something that comes down the stretch for them in these upcoming weeks, just to see how it starts off. But I would be nervous if I'm Red Sox fans to see what they have.
Well, the thing about Barnes, they asked Alex Cora about Barnes after the game. He said, well, he wasn't available. He tweaked his back, or he had, he pulled some muscle or something like that. But I don't know. Barnes, the second half of last season was an absolute disaster. He could never quite get back what he had in the first half of the season, and his spring training wasn't that good. He got banged around. So maybe there is something. The fastball wasn't as fast as it was before. So I think partly, yeah, I'm taking him at his word that maybe he pulled a muscle or did something or whatever. Might also be that Corey didn't want to put him in there because he thought he was going to blow the game.
That's possible. He could have a dead arm right now. Weather can affect that too, depending on what happened down at spring training. All kinds of stuff that can go on that we don't know about. But it doesn't seem like the Matt Bonds that we know and we've seen some good things of. Can it be a mental game? That's another thing that you have to worry about. And it was mental at times last year, Paul. And Cora put it out there and said he's having some issues in the mental part of the game. So, you keep throwing him out there and see what happens.
Well, I remember in the first half of last season, I thought, wow, this is great. He's become one of the top closers in the league. And then he went into the All-Star game and he just got bombed in the All-Star game, right? So I kind of felt bad for him. Like, there's a Red Sox player getting bombed in the All-Star game, And then after that, he just kept getting banged around. And I'm thinking, geez, there was something that happened there right around the All-Star game, or maybe the All-Star game in itself. Maybe he got, I don't know, he's embarrassed. They get banged. Hey, guys get banged around in the All-Star game. No big deal. We think, it's easy for us to say that. But man, I got to tell you, he was never right after that. I remember watching him get banged around the All-Star game, and I thought, gee, that's too bad. And after that, I don't know. It just never came together for him after that.
Cora said he just lost confidence. It's as simple as that. And then not only do you lose confidence, your fastball doesn't seem to be like the fastball that you've had. So if you're throwing 96 and now you get out there and it's only 92 or 91, what's going on? What's happening now? So a lot of things there that went wrong for him. And unfortunately, hopefully he gets it back. Not available yesterday is like, oh, all right, what's going on now? So you're already tweaking something, or is the arm, is it a dead arm? I don't know what's going on. So hopefully he gets his confidence back. As a Red Sox fan, they're going to need him if they want to do anything this year.
He lost his fastball like Bill Belichick. No, I'm only kidding. I got to try to throw a little kerosene on the fire there, Yep. Ryan Fast and Furious says that he's excited to see how Tanner Houck does. But yep. Rich Hill is in his 40s, so he's worried about that. And Waka is average at best.
Well, that's your starting five. And so, they know that these are guys that we're going to need some quality innings. We're going to need them to go 5 innings. We need them to go 6 innings. Watch the pitch count. Keep them in the game. Don't just rely on the bats all the time to do all the scoring, and then we don't have to worry about it too much. You're going to need pitching, and you're going to need starters, and they're going to rely on some of these young guns to hopefully come through for them. Michael Walker is still a young kid coming from St. Louis. Didn't really have great success over there. Can he do it with Boston? We're going to find out.
Well, Mike Insesio mentioned that we ought to get in touch with Jimmy D. Well, I did talk to Jimmy D. I interviewed Jimmy D a couple of years back, and he came down to my when I was doing the, my interviews from my office with a little blue curtain hanging in the background, and he brought a couple of those rings, But this was before Tom Brady left and all that, and he was a terrific interview. But I know he's really busy right now, and it's just great to see a local guy, from this area, being the videographer. He's the guy that shoots the full 11. And he's a terrific gentleman, and we've talked to him a number of times. But I think right now there's a lot going on, so I don't know how available he would be. And I think, the other thing, too, is Belichick, he's a little quirky about people talking out there. I don't know if he had to get permission when I don't know if he did or not. I'm not saying that. He was very gracious to come on. We had a fantastic interview. But, Belichick, I don't think he likes, people that work in the organization, necessarily being interviewed just, whenever you feel like interviewing them about, touchy subjects and stuff like that.
Hey, some organizations do not allow people who work for you to actually come on a podcast or be interviewed at all. So think about that. And I've reached out to some people with the Celtics and asked if they could come on our show. And they told me straight out, I'm sorry, we cannot do that because that's the Celtics telling us we can't.
Yeah, they're afraid that, they might blurt something out they're not supposed to. The thing is, They don't know us. We wouldn't do it. When I interviewed Jimmy D, I made a point, hey, you're doing me a favor to be interviewed. I want to know what it's like videotaping the All 11 and presenting it to Bill Belichick and what it's like working with Bill Belichick and how Bill Belichick works. And at that time, Brady was still there, what Brady is like. I mean, I wasn't going to say, hey, Jimmy, can you give me some dirt on Belichick or something? I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah.
the problem is that if they let everybody be interviewed in the whole organization, somebody's going to inadvertently make a mistake and blurt something out that they're not supposed to. So in a way, I can understand that they, hey, you want to speak to me about what's going on in the coaching ranks? Speak to me. I mean, I'm the head coach. So actually, I can understand it. I can understand.
And I've reached out to John Connor, who's the equipment manager of the
Right.
Boston Celtics, and asked John if he'd like to come on our show. And he came out straight out and said, Chris, I'm just not allowed to do that under the Celtics organization. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to have to decline. That's just the role of the job. So he can't, and nothing against him at all. I appreciate him telling me, what he feels, and that's just the way that it goes. So, sometimes we can get him and sometimes we can't.
Last call for a telephone call. They say last call for alcohol in some establishments that Chris would never go to. 774-762-6234. You can jump in on anything that we talked about over the whole hour. John Lima is on. We welcome you to the show. Nice to see you, John. Keep spinning those records. He's a well-known DJ and so forth. So thank you very much for chiming in. And I think Mike Consaccio was talking about how he was rooting for Tiger Woods. He wanted to see Tiger Woods do well.
Sure.
And kind of rooting for him. So back to, how that's a big story, not just, in the golf world or even in the sports world. It's like a human nature story, like, having somebody that's had issues make that comeback, and whether it's the back surgery, whether it's the personal problems, whether it's the car accident, that definitely intrigues everybody. And I do think that a lot of people are rooting for him.
Oh, well, absolutely. And it's great for the golf community, number one. Number two, it's great for the ratings of the TV. Number three, the only difference is, remember, this is his profession. So every day he wakes up training, practicing, finding a way to talk to his doctors, finding a way to get back out on the golf course. For me and you, Paul, we would not be able to do that. We would have to do our normal job first, then try to figure a way out, then obviously get on the golf course and then make our way if we could. So it's a little bit different for us than him, who eats, sleeps, drinks, golf, and that's all that they do. And it's ice baths, and it's massages, and it's, the health kick and the dietitian and the lifting and the gym and all the things that can get him back out there. And that's what he's been doing from 14 to 17 months and working back to try to get him on the course. He's made it. It's just great for the game. So congratulations to him and getting him back out there on the course.
That's what makes these athletes special. They have this extra thing that almost like a normal person doesn't have. We started out with Tom Brady, worked our way around to Tiger Woods. Very, very similar, right? Michael Jordan, any of the greats, right? They just have this burning sensation and burning desire that they have to be the best. And they'll stay up all night if they have to, studying, working, just to prove it one more time. I mean, what else does like a Tom Brady have to prove? He already won 7 Super Bowls, but yet he wants to win another one. They even say, what's your favorite one? And he always says, the next one. Like, the next one? How many more do you want to win, the guy? You know what I mean? Like that. And they say, like, he's that guy that we all know that guy, and again, usually people that are like that, I don't particularly care for. You're playing ping pong with a guy, and the guy will, if the ball's out, he'll say it's in. And the guy, one of those guys that if he loses a ping pong, he's all ticked off, Well, it turns out that Brady would play ping pong, and if he lost, he'd be all irritated. He'd be throwing the paddle around and everything else. Just has that burning desire. He just can't lose. And then there's a story in the book about how he got to practice at, like, say, 6 a.m., and somebody got there 5 minutes after him, and he goes, oh, tomorrow I'm going to get here before you. So then the guy got there at 5:30. Brady got there at 5. So the next day, he said, I'm going to beat you the next day. So the guy got there at 5. Brady got there at 4. He just wasn't going to lose. He wasn't going to lose. But isn't that quality that makes, somebody like that at that level just so far up there that we can't imagine? That's what makes them who they are. That's why they're the best.
Well, let me tell you this. You wouldn't want to play with me, Paul, in anything. Because let me tell you, people know me. I hate losing. More than I like winning.
Oh, so you're that guy?
Well, I am that guy. And people who know me will know that this guy hates to lose. And that's just, I was brought up, I was taught, when you make a commitment to something, you go out there and you give 100% in everything that you do. and you take it to heart and you go out there and you try to get better for the next time you go out there. And that's how I am. That's the way I've always been. And yes, I don't care if it's chess or checkers or a game of cards. I don't want to lose. I hate losing more than I like winning. I'll tell you that straight out.
Well, I got to tell you that's what people will say. People will say, hey, whoever we're talking about, hey, Chris Santos, he's a great competitor. He's a great competitor. And actually, people that probably play you and feel the same way about it, you bring out the best in the opponent because the opponent doesn't want to lose either. So that's how you end up with, two great performances.
Yeah, and tennis was my sport growing up. I played a lot of other things. I just happened to excel on the tennis circuit. So for me, it was, the practicing and the grinding and finding a way to beat my opponent. And I thought sometimes I did it mentally and beat the player, and sometimes I did it physically and beat the player. And so I took that to heart in all the other things that I play, and I try to do it every time that I step into competition. So for me, that's the way it's always been. There's a lot of other people who do it that way, and there's other people who have their own way of playing sports. So I don't knock it. It's just something that's inside me, and I'm going to continue to do that as much as I can.
Yeah, but if you're playing tennis and the ball is out, the guy goes, hey, wait a minute, that was in. No, that was out. No, that was in. And the thing's 2 feet out because you want to win so badly.
Well, no, I don't get into the cheating part of it. I'm going to get into that point. Let's not get carried away.
No, I'm asking. That's right.
That, but I'm honest about it, and I'll argue a call if I thought it was in compared to out, like anybody else. But I'm going to take it to heart, and I'm going to get down on myself if I lose, and try to find a way to get better so it doesn't happen the next time.
So you're a great competitor. We learned something here today.
Oh no, people know me.
That's what Dwight Evans used to say. I hate losing more than I like winning. That's true.
I do.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Actually, that's a quote from Billy Bean.
Oh, is that right?
That is a quote from Billy Bean. But I've said it before in the past, and I hate losing more than I like winning.
All right. You heard it here on Santos on Sports. We really appreciate our callers today. We appreciate Ryan Fast and Farias and the other folks that commented here today. Mike Consaccio, thanks a lot for looking in. And we'll see you back here next Saturday for another Santos on Sports.
Before we go, I just want to, on a sour note, unfortunately, the passing of 24-year-old Dwayne Haskins, who died today in a car accident, the quarterback from Ohio State that was with the Steelers. What a sad story this is. I know it will affect the NFL, and really sorry to hear about that. If you didn't know, that happened, I believe it was this morning or last night. So a very sour note to condolences to him and his family, the passing of Ohio State quarterback and Pittsburgh quarterback, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, 100%. Sad story. With life ahead of you. Those highways, just, drive carefully. Take it easy on the highway because those highways, they can be tough and real tragedy. So our heart goes out to the family and so forth. All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you again for chiming in. For Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos. Have a great afternoon.